Former Charleston County School Board member Elizabeth Moffly has filed a complaint with the South Carolina State Board of Education against Charleston County School Superintendent Dr. Gerrita Postlewait. In this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I sit down with Elizabeth one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores.
Well, Elizabeth, it's so good to see you again.
It's great to see you, Quintin.
I appreciate this.
No problem.
Well, let me jump into the headline from lowcountrysource.com.
Okay.
Moffly files charges against Postlewait to the South Carolina State Board of Education. And here's the actual article. On November 8th, former Charleston County School Board member Elizabeth Moffly filed a formal complaint with the South Carolina State Board of Education against Charleston County School District Superintendent Gerrita Postlewait. Moffly cited several laws that she believes Postlewait violated. As you know, Dr. Postlewait has been a superintendent for 22 years now, that is. Why now?
Well, it all started last spring when she decided at the end of the year that she was going to put teachers on formal evaluation based solely on student test scores. And that's where it all began.
As a matter of fact, let me go through a couple of those laws because you said this among the charges against her. 1, failure to submit her oath of office to the Secretary of State, which violates South Carolina Code Section 591310. A school district superintendent has 30 days after being hired to file an oath of office with the Secretary of State. What is your definition of oath of office?
Every elected or public official, especially in an important position as the superintendent of education, because education is probably, for most of us, it's the largest entity in most counties.
Right.
But you swear to uphold the South Carolina and the U.S. Constitution. You know, it's what we go to wars for, to defend the Constitution. And it's very important. I mean, even the state superintendent can be removed from office if she does not ensure that the U.S. history and the Constitution are taught in high school.
Wow. And here's another charge. Failure to file a strategic plan in conformance with state and federal mandates, violating South Carolina codes 595060 and 5981300 and state regulation 43261. The strategic plan is to be developed with input from stakeholders such as teachers, principals, parents, and community members. Moffly alleges stakeholders were not involved in the process. Signatures of retired district employee Mary Runyon and Charleston County School District 2016 Teacher of the Year Corday Borders are on the plan, although both said they were unaware of the plan and did not contribute to it. This is also a violation of South Carolina Statute 161910 to report fraudulent information to a state agency, and South Carolina Statute 161741 to commit conspiracy as a contribution between 2 or more persons for the purpose of accomplishing an unlawful object or lawful object by unlawful means.
It's misrepresentation.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's the same as being dishonest. And that is one thing that really is, I'm into honesty. Do not mislead me, tell me the truth. And unfortunately, she has been misrepresenting many of these facts to the board and to the public, and I really I have zero tolerance for dishonesty.
And you say that basically the strategic plan that is to be developed with input from stakeholders such as teachers, principals, parents, and community members. So who was a part of this plan if it weren't those folks?
There were CCSD employees. Out of 15 of those signatures, 14 were CCSD employees, which has always been the MO for the district, even with the past superintendent. I did go through a strategic plan when I was on the board,
right.
And it was very well known that we were doing it, and we had meeting after meeting. We went to different schools. Everyone knew what the plan was. I mean, we had students, we had teachers, we had principals, we had parents, we had business community,
Wow.
and we worked. I mean, it was a process.
Okay.
It didn't just, I know that the district said that they had a strategic plan meeting at Burke in January. I think it was January 28th, 2016. But basically it was just a public meeting, And they all had little breakout sessions, and people got up there and spoke about, I don't even know, different things that weren't even pertinent to the strategic plan. The strategic plan is about the vision and the goals for the district and how we're going to meet them. And part of that is how you do evaluations. How do you evaluate principals and how do you evaluate teachers? And the state has actually set up those evaluations, and if you're going to deviate from what the state has already approved, you have to get permission. And the state has never approved evaluating teachers on student test scores as a standalone evaluation. They've never approved that. I mean, it's not even recommended. People have been sued for trying to do it. Wow. We lost teachers over it. We lost principals. You know, when I was on the board, we had to give Burke and North Charleston High School principals 3-year contracts, which this did come up. They tried to change the principal policy, that we had 3-year contracts, because anybody says that if you have a failing school, it's 3 to 5 years to turn it around. So you can't just give somebody 1 year and say, oh, you failed, you're out. It's a process. It takes time. We didn't get there overnight. And for us to have moved 25% of our principals at the end of the year last year was disruptive. I mean, then there's this thing called disturbing schools, and no one's allowed to do it. And to move principals when we know consistent leadership is what schools need to turn around. I mean, what happens inside school is the most important thing that we do. Who our principals are and who our teachers are, that is our core business.
Okay.
Is kids. And you don't go and disrupt the learning environment, and it's like getting into a new relationship. It's hard to start over again.
And we go to the other charge. It says this: rehired retired Chief Financial Officer Lynn Stigman as a consultant. This is in violation of State Code 813-755, which states that a former public employee must wait a year after terminating his or her public employment before being hired as a consultant. And a lot of people around here wanted Andy Smith to be the consultant.
They wanted him to be the CFO,
Well,
the Chief Financial Officer, because he is an accountant.
he is.
And, he was the treasurer for Charleston County,
Right.
and so he is familiar with dealing with large sums of money, which we have large sums of money. But I didn't write that law.
Right.
It's the ethics law.
Right.
And, he retired in June,
Right.
and he was back on the payroll in June.
How did that loophole come about?
I don't know. I actually went through them. I tried to find him. I went through all the minutes and the agendas,
Right.
but he's in the minutes, being there and being accommodated for being so helpful to the district, and they're glad that he's still around. But regardless, the law says you can't.
And another charge here is this: hired Charleston County Council member Henry Darby as a principal of North Charleston High School, which violates South Carolina Code 4910, stating, quote, "No member of council shall hold any other office of honor or profit in government, except military commission and commissions as notaries public during his elected term." So what's the problem with Henry Darby?
I don't have a problem with him.
I mean, I know you don't.
I know Henry is doing great things at North Charleston. But the law is very clear. If you're going to, and this is specific to council members, if you're going to be a council member, you cannot also be employed by a government entity. That's what that law says. Does it not?
Oh, yes.
I mean, there are several people that do it. Paul Campbell's another, but.
Oh, we gotta pray for him.
But, if we're not going to abide by the law, then we need to repeal the law, or we need to uphold the law. I did not write it.
Right.
And, if I was a council member and I wanted, that's only $20,000 a year.
Okay.
But principal is about 130. I think if I had to choose, I'd choose the principal.
So tell me, when you filed this particular complaint.
This was not about Henry.
Right.
This is about Gerrita and her oath to follow the laws of this state. And, That's really what it's about. Follow the law.
And
And if you don't know the law, then maybe you're not competent.
And so when you filed that particular complaint, was it because you're a concerned citizen, or are you saying, hey, I'm a former Charleston County School Board member, this is not how this is supposed to run?
Both. I've always been a concerned citizen, which is why I ran for the school board, why I ran for state superintendent of education.
Right.
I've been studying educational law since 2004,
Right.
and all other laws that pertain. And the law is important.
Mhm.
That, you know, if we're gonna be law-abiding citizens, then we need to follow the law. And dishonesty, I have zero tolerance. And I did state in my complaint that I had been a former
Right.
school board member, and that we had dismissed or terminated individuals for less violations than the ones I listed. Just a single violation is enough for you to be dismissed. And since the board is on the they're following the recommendation of the superintendent regardless of what it is, without asking any questions, and why not? They're only making $25, so why bother? Just, so they're not representing who they were elected to represent, the stakeholders. They're defending the administration instead of listening to the stakeholders, because you know, we had several protests
Right.
and outcries and petitions.
Right.
And is the board listening?
Well, that goes back to coherent governance, doesn't it?
That does go back to coherent governance, which I also mentioned in my complaint, which said that the board had taken over coherent governance, and so therefore they no longer had any oversight or answerability to the stakeholders or the taxpayer, and therefore the state board has been by law given the authority to determine people's status of their certification.
Okay.
And so they are the accountability at this point. Since we can't have the board hold her accountable, I asked for the state to hold her accountable.
Okay, if you were to sit right across from the lawyer for the Charleston County School District, you would look him in his eyes and say what?
She's incompetent, unfit, dishonest.
Well, let me get back to coherent governance, because if you could talk to some of the members on the Charleston County School Board right now, what would you tell them?
That obviously they're not listening to their constituents. There are many people that are unhappy. In my complaint, I used a lot of, the whole idea that the superintendent said that test scores, that was absolutely a falsehood. I mean, she told that to the public, she told that to the board, but they told Jake Rainbow
Right.
that it was about his MAP scores, which is why he was being moved. He had to have his letter that he wrote to his school community approved before he submitted it. And in that letter, which was approved by the associate superintendent,
Okay.
he specifically said, I'm being moved because of test scores. And it was approved because it was about test scores.
Elizabeth Moffly, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Quintin, it's always great to see you.
Likewise, and thank you for breaking all this down for us.
Well, we'll just see where it goes. I know that the state legal counsel did contact me and told me that I was in line behind 100+ complaints at the state.
Good luck with that.
So it's not the only one.
Right, they're busy too.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Quintin.
I appreciate this.
I do too.
Yeah, thank you.